My proposal is to combine the 2 points, why true dialogue needs real communities, with the point following, Polis revisited, how to establish real communities in recent conditions. Do you agree with such a combination or not? The argument, dialogue, my argument for combining it, many of these points why we need, why dialogue needs real communities, we already addressed frequently in our discussion. So we have at this point here, need for direct personal contact to lead a dialogue. No? This was our social media discussion. We had real community. Do I need to know the people personally? Real community needs humanely sustainable relationships, not just internet-based relations. This is a point we had not so far. What are sustainable human relations today? And the last point is real community, common values and goals. So this we address the value system and not just opinions. The difference between I have an opinion and I share certain values and goals with others. And the point following up was the Polis revisited how to establish real communities in recent conditions. How we shall proceed? What you recommend?
Why don't we start with, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Why don't we start with what is a community?
That's a good idea. Yes. Wait a minute. Yes. If you like, I can give a short overview from the literature. A community. No? I can do it if you like. No? So I collected criteria making up a real community out of literature.
Go for it.
Yo, I do. Communities are intentional, also not forced upon. Intentional on the basis of mutual need and shared belief. Here we have the value system again. Trust, mutual aid, and the sense of locality and familiarity. This is a further criterion for a true or real community. Locality is an interesting point as regards internet possibilities. Next, community need a consensus, a reciprocally binding sentiment, or a peculiar will of the community. That's the point of the telos, peculiar will. We want to achieve this and this, longer term, medium term. The sense of community life derived particularly from mutual possession and enjoyment. This is a quote. And possession and enjoyment of goods held in common. This presupposes common goods and not just a capitalist dispersal of goods to certain individuals.
Carlos.
Okay. A community means group solidarity in terms of an organic association based upon likeness. This is the idea, the Greek idea of friendship, and of interdependence. I have to I'm dependent on other beings in a positive way of dependency. Communities contain much shared experience and the expectation of continued, frequent and intense interaction. This is a definition from Zygmunt Bauman, the sociologist, dealing with the today's role of the individual, as the self in recent societies versus communities. Communities need social relations that involve trust, openness, and minimal exploitation. And they need a sense of group identity, and it's a group identity which is not formatting. It's a group identity that welcomes support and recognition, but does not demand the sacrifice of individuality. Okay, and this is community, as a boiled down. And we had some interesting characteristics, criteria we discussed: locality, and some we discussed not yet. For instance, locality. Internet relations are not local. So I need a place, what Marc Auger, this French anthropologist, called the anthropological place. We do not, as human beings, we do not need just spaces to live in, but concrete with character, with individuality. For instance, at the space here we are discussing, and locality is important, and the common consent is also important. This is this question with the value system. Without common consent, we have no community. Okay, and the group identity relates to this common consent. We have an identity as our artwork discussion, culture discussion. We need some identity, and this again implies locality, identity of a place, for instance, of the polis where I'm living in, and a belonging to my group, also to the individual members as well as to the group as a whole. This all is needed for making up a real community, as according to literature. An excerpt out of literature. So, okay, so far so good. No? No? So, and then the point is what to do with this criteria in the face of recent conditions. So if we look at each of our personal lives in the existing systemic conditions. No? This is one point. How it is, no, in these regards. Do we meet many of these criteria or not, or none of them? And the second point is, if we want to build up a community, to re-establish this idea of community / polis, as a polis as a metaphor also, no? To establish this idea in today's situations, what it would need to do that. And this includes what we could do for re-establishing that, provided we want the community. This is an assumption.
You've been talking about reconstructing or how do you say reconstructing community? Or regaining community?
Regaining.
Can you explain in which sense community has been lost?
Community has been lost in the course of modernity due to the fragmentation of life processes. No? One major force was capitalism, but not the only one. Another major force was in this way of industrialization, the formatization of life processes. No? I fragment, I make identical, as the housing is identical, the products are identical, as in the modern art. No?
Yes.
It's a quite comparable process. No? And in this course of formatization combined with urbanization, also with how to make it in English, with large numbers of people coming into the centers of production where these formatization processes were at work, not only in production and economy, but also in living. No? We have the suburbs, we have, and so on and so on. So this is a large formatization of life, accompanied by a loss of meaning. And this has been observed by sociologists at the end of the 19th century, also the earliest. For instance, also the German sociologist Tönnies said it's a general phenomenon of modernity that the society moved away from communal bonds, from a community-based living, primarily on the countryside, in small towns, to an anonymous society. And an anonymous society means an individualization. Me as a single person, I have no longer personal bonds outlined as characteristic for making up a community. This is lost. No? This is the context. Question?
Well, the thing is, how is it possible that communities still feel like communities, although they have been destroyed, as you said?
Yeah.
Because, like, I'm thinking of a soccer fan club, for example, that
That's
actually,
community, yeah.
like, I have the feeling they fulfill all the criteria that you said, but due to the fact that they don't have, how do you say, that lives have been fragmented. So is it a community now, or is it not?
Your example of the soccer fans, there are a community as a meeting almost all of the criteria reported. They have a common value system, they have a sense of belonging, they meet at certain places, they have an identity feeling, and so on. But these are part-time communities. The one major point, and this was also the critique from Tönnies and from Durkheim, and also recently from Zygmunt Bauman. And the point is the permanence. Locality means permanence. No? The assumption is we can speak only of a real community if this community has a concrete place and not shifting places. And not please.
I think the community that we would like to explain, refer to the police, is related to the not settlement, not just not settlement and place, is related to the right and privacy. And the community, when we say the police, we speak about three sides of one triangle. Politis is a citizenship. Polis is a location, place, and the police that I explained before. And politeia, these three sides of one triangle. And when we speak about the community, we are speaking about this triangle that each side work with the other two sides. And these three sides work with each other, and these three sides, all of them are features of the one thing, triangle. Triangle is one thing. When you are speaking about the community, you are speaking about personality, privacy. When you are speaking about privacy or community, you are speaking about the person or system or governments that support and protect this community from the outside. It's a concrete concept and abstracted concept, both of them. And as I know, and if you think it's correct or not, it's my idea, and it's my point of view. And when we are speaking about the community, and when we are speaking about the democracy is a system that is working inside the triangle, inside the world. Can find the relationship between the points, between the sides. Polites, citizenship, the ships, police, and manager of the police.
It's politeia.
Okay.
The state organization.
This
No matter how the
triangle,
state looks like.
you cannot say, okay, this triangle is one side isn't working, is not working. Okay, you have no triangle. Then you say police, you remember these two sides. and polis. When you say politis, as a member of this community, you remember the other two sides. And these three sides work with each other in one time, one moment.
Yeah, Joshua?
I'm just thinking of this fragmentation. I experienced, I don't know if all aspects are fragmented like this, but I'm experiencing the localization part as also being fragmented via or as being reproduced via internet platforms. I experience various types of such community-like things. I think when I'm thinking of here, I have a telecom or a place on any platform where people with similar mindset or with similar ideas, yeah, with this set on common goals are together and they are close in this one platform or this one group. Would they, or do you, is this a type of, can it be a type of community in modern thought? Or is there something missing very important? Because I don't know if I got the criteria all very well.
Related as it is. Good? No?
Can we re-establish the community probably with this?
Could there be a perfect community online? Is that maybe the question?
The point is, yeah, please. Huh? Alan?
Yes, I think that the locality, the question of locality becomes important in terms of virtual communities versus like real communities, physical communities. And I think that from my experience, like during the period of time when there was, during COVID, when people were isolated from one another, a lot of communication took place on the internet, okay? And a lot of teaching was done on the internet, okay? But I noticed that what was missing was the face-to-face interaction that takes place in the learning environment. And I think that students missed this element, you know, during the pandemic. And when people were finally able to like get together again, it was like liberating experience for them because they could actually see and talk with people who were physically present. And so I think that locality is like an important element in community.
Assisting your point, yeah, please.
Anna?
Yes.
No,
Anna.
Also Anna had something. Yeah.
I definitely have to say something to this because I have a different experience.
Just speak.
Because I grew up with the internet, well, from very young age, and I basically during my teenage times I only hang out in online communities, and I could certainly say that they ticked all the boxes for me personally. And I mean, there's, for example, that something like the Cozy Web, which is basically an enclave of communities which exist on messenger platforms like WhatsApp or Telegram and so on. They're kind of by invitation only, so they're not open. So there are kind of like forms of communities that are now forming, for example, on Discord and so on, that are are not accessible to any kind of user, and usually the community stays also in a certain size, so maybe that also ticks the size box a little bit. And these people usually exchange also based on niche interests. So sometimes you cannot find someone in your city who has the same interest, but you might find someone on the entire planet. So I think they have different functions. I feel like the body, the presence of the body is very important to create a specific bond, but I think I would not undervalue the importance of online communities as well, from my point of view and my experience, because I had some very meaningful relationships also, even if we never met in real life. I had some very meaningful relationships.
And I would like to be as a critical situation, follow as a critical situation, and I would like to say, okay, the internet and non-real connection, communication is good and useful, and anything like this, and I would like to follow this way, but I want to follow the political situation of this thing, and if I would like to add one if we had this ability to manage the whole of this system by ourselves, it was not dangerous, it was not harmful. And for example, what's the problem of dictatorship? The dictatorship save all the power of the city in one hand, okay, in one group's hand, and maybe some party's hand, some people's hand. And this is dangerous for the all the citizenship in the city, in the country. If all of the power divided by each person, and each person who are living inside the government system has this right to be against the government, okay, it's a good situation, and it's a democratic situation. But in internet and the media, you don't know what happened behind the scenes. The manager of the system is not in your hand. The decision system is not in your choice. If we had this kind of relationship between our right and the manager of the system that are working behind the scenes, I think this kind of relationship was not bad. It would be useful for us. But they have many threats from the outside of our community, our relationship, our lifestyle. And for this reason, I think it's important to be against of this situation, or be maybe a critical person against of this system. Yeah, maybe it will be possible. Yeah.
But it's a good question. It's a good. Yeah, please, Anna. No?
So there are also, it's called the Commons on the internet. There are initiatives, for example, Mastodon is an open source and entirely free, self-hosted social media platform. So there are initiatives that try to tackle this, like this empire of social media giants. And it's a very, very big topic. So there will be, for example, now an initiative. I'm working actually with Punky Gallery, which is a net art gallery, and they are working on degrowth and at the same time on the role of communities to form these kind of like niche commons ideas that are separate and alternative networks to the main networks. There are a lot of artists working on that.
That is a very important point in general terms, also as regards our very understanding of what is a community. You know? If we take this criteria presented, the question is there a possibility that new forms of community can evolve in the way Anna described it, also with these new movements, also that we are discussing about degrowth. This is the question addressed today about the number of people and decentralization. Also, and in a wider context, degrowth means to say goodbye to the existing capitalist system. which relies on growth as a need for survival. And moreover, no, also if you look at this community criteria and say, okay, degrowth enables communities because smaller, because more overseeable, and then we have Allen points more reachable as regards the equality of knowledge, now that we have the equal knowledge base. At least we are on the way of it. Plus, it's an expression of art, which means the question is, could these new forms of new real social media be a new form of community? Because we cannot return to the golden age and the utopia of the city-state of Siena. We do not live in the city-state of Siena, except we are living, but the majority of us does not. And we cannot reconstruct a modern version of the Greek polis. This would be interesting, really interesting. It's not meant ironically, but it would be utopian. For the moment, it is not available as a real physical anthropological place. The question is, are there other anthropological places we can build up? For instance, these new movements Anna cited. And could we, last question, on the top, bringing the perspective to its end, and can we combine it with new form of physically based communities, as we are used to live in communities since millions of years as human beings? Is that combination possible? This could be really interesting.
That brings to mind something that I've just heard about just a couple of weeks ago. There's a sociologist. Yeah, exactly, sociologist. Oh my God.
This guy. Yeah.
Anyways, they're working on online or ways to how do you say, to govern. So they have like a community and how to govern itself. And he builds computer games. He builds this whole participation in this whole political system. He built it like as a computer game where you can get certain high scores. I haven't played it. I've only heard like a talk about it. And so I have no idea, but I just maybe wanted to bring it up because I found it very interesting as a model for like future communities and how to gain participation in certain systems.
And this is the point about future communities. We cannot return to the golden age utopia, the retro utopia of the city-state and the polis is over. But we can take the idea of the polis and put it into a new evolving gestalt and say, okay, here we have possibilities in these new internet approaches reported. Here we have a chance to get a new gestalt of community, deserving the name. Also being a real community. It could be very interesting.
I think
numbers on that topic.
The point that what Anna was mentioning was like, yes, and there definitely are gaming communities. I mean, gaming communities have been around for a while, and online communities do have, I believe this, and I participate in them, have a real validity. But I think that we haven't, how can I say this? The interface between the real locality, community as locality, and community as a virtual reality is an evolving reality. Okay, we're kind of like we're at the beginning stages of how this works out in terms of like politically and so forth. And there's a lot of tension in terms of like companies like Facebook and Google resisting things like Mastodon and Fediverse. There's a tension between those social media platforms which are commodifying social interactions and those kind of platforms which are trying to like foster real communities.
Marina?
Yeah, such a big topic, but I also think that it's kind of two different parts of community. The one has an impact of the local surrounding and the infrastructure in a physical way. And I also had the experience while Corona, I was teaching and I just saw those kids, they were used to being in online communities, but there were lack of personal contact, and they really missed this point. And I think it's super important also to exchange different perspectives, not just opinions, but to get in contact also without searching it, to get in contact with other perspectives. It's not so easy in the internet because you always have a topic and it's bubble-wise discussed in one community. But how can I get in touch with another perspective? It's super difficult, I guess. And so I see another value in this offline community building, and the impact to what is built up in the infrastructure is only possible with the people who are around me or next to me. It's my experience when I'm working, but I also like online communities, but the output isn't so visible sometimes.
Okay. What about the combination? What about the combination that we say, okay, we still, as a thesis, no? We still, as human beings, as the Zoonpolitikon, we still have to rely on the physical community in the end, as a base. No? And we still have to rely on the physical locality in the meaning of the anthropological place. But at the same time, we can evolve possibilities of exchange and of true dialogue, far exceeding the possibilities we had so far in whole human history. We stay local, we stay physical, it's needed. It's a condition for being human. A necessary condition for being human. But at the same time, we can evolve new means of as assistant means instead of taking these virtual communities as a real alternative to existing physical ones. This is no neither or, it's a combination. This could be a thinkable future and a positive future, because then the problem of the revolution of the jihad would appear in a new light, and the question of the decentralization, of the degrowth in this direction of living more human again, would become a new impact and a new dimension, at least as a hope, as a perspective.
But the problem is that the offline and online spaces are at the moment owned by somebody. So how can we build up places who don't to our places? So the places of the community and not the places of Google or private concerns.
So one possibility is here the Nestlerstraße, here our foundation's venue, no?
Yeah.
No joke.
Marina, come.
No joke. No, but you are right. Also, these are the systemic conditions we address. Also, in the existing, gleich. Joshua kommt und dann. Okay, alles klar. Tschüss, Alan. So, in the existing frame conditions, the systemic frame conditions, we cannot do nothing of importance, and this readdresses the question of the revolution. I'm sorry, but I have to readdress it. We have to change the entire system. We have to. Okay, Joshua.
Yeah, I just thought of because you asked how we can use new media, I thought of having on the one side on the physical side small areas where, for example, within the city, one quarter of the city or one Stadtviertel.
Yeah, one part of city.
In just acting for their needs on the physical side, while experimenting for the information part with some new possibilities to get the ground tone of meanings from the social networks, with something like I played around little much with AI tools that I can tell them, please make a web search, but please show me which sources you used, and also tell me what you think, how scientifically remarkable they are and why. And yeah, it's a 7-side paper I wrote to tell the AI how it should, which knowledge it should use, and how it should tell me. It's from my studies in historical and philosophy. What criteria we use to gain knowledge, which is really scientific important, and which not. And I'm playing around with this, and I get really good results, because it shows me links I can click on, and it shows me a short summary. And if I want, I can dive into this information. But if I just need a short summary, I have a short a feeling what is the ground tone of the needs or of the discussion which I'm researching for. And probably if we stay in easy tasks for a short dimension of location, so just for a quarter of city, we can have good results with this. Maybe it would make sense to just play a little bit around with this.
Was ist
I don't
dein
know
Punkt, Joshua?
what do you think about such experience? Or
Was ist dein Punkt, Joshua, also bezogen auf
what
Community?
do you think that would make a good that we could include this in a decision process? So we have a little bit earlier decisions, or earlier knowledge about small areas, or is it too dangerous?
I have no idea if it's too dangerous, but I try to find a general point. A general point is Aristoteles defined techne as a technique. Now, so Aristoteles said techne is that what nature isn't able to deliver and what nature cannot produce. As a techne is in the literal sense an artifact. This is ars and factum. We made it. No matter how this techne nowadays evolves itself further on. This is another discussion. But essentially a technique can be an instrumentum, an instrument, a means of help as an artifact. But we are, as human beings, we are natural beings. And we have to think about our community as natural beings. We have a technical assistant means. And this is very, very important as regards the shortening of overview processes and sometimes decision processes. in the Italian Renaissance, also it took very long to make a decision process and to draw a painting and to draw an architecture. Okay, but the quality of decision is decisive. And when we're speaking about community and technical means, as assistant means, no? I think we have to be aware that community is a human issue. And in the second instance, we use technique. And in an additional second instance, we could use these new roads Anna mentioned. No? Also we could have a real enrichment by technical means, but these technical means are still technical means. Also if we meet virtually, there are also findings also from sociologists, anthropologists, for the time being, nothing can be replaced as regards direct human contact. And this is a question of what Pechmann addressed of pathos. I need emotions, I need pathos, I need direct involvement to really move something in a dialogue and in practical terms. No? And I can use assistant means, also this techne. No? But the general problem remains addressed by Norina. Okay, fine, people, fine, no matter which way we choose, as a combinations with technique, in generating new communities or whatever, it's a property problem. We cannot do it if the ground does not belong to us. The ground of the cloud, this is not ours. So, for instance, the whole website of our foundation, and there's much work in it, pathos and work. It could be switched off in a second if the company decides to plug away it is, or ground to make a real local community. We had this podcast with David Flachakos in Baden-Baden, who reported us what is the situation in the real estate market. If this ground does not belong to us, we can stop speaking about how to build a community. Where? As physically, where? In the Arizona desert or what? It's a point, which means we have to address the systemic conditions again, and we have to search for possibilities how to build our own ground for generating communities. Is this possible in the existing system on a reliable, as it means viable base? It makes no sense to occupy a house and the next morning the police is coming because the owner of the house said, here, look, remove, move out.
I think we should look to several possibilities. One of the companies for Karlsruhe, it's like Volkswohnung, Mieter and Bauverein. The Volkswohnung, sometimes I think they give one apartment free that people who are living in this house can cook there, can meet there, can have perhaps a repair cafe and such things. Perhaps also they have there a computer where people which are not so connected with computers can do some things with help. And this, I think, it's a nice idea in quarters where only private owners are living. I often saw papers in the letterbox. We are the Nachbarschaftshilfe, neighbor help. Are you interested? Another thing could be to besetze ein Haus. For to make open community rooms. We know at Durlach, one house, it's empty since more than 20 years. And nobody does anything. I know another house, it's beside a school, and the school thought about a Mensa. It was, I think, not possible, but this house is since 3 years empty. And so I think there could be houses, places where persons could build a little part of a community.
At least.
And this has nothing to do with the internet community group, peer group, blah, blah, blah. This could be a possibility beside the physical activities.
Okay.
I think talking to David, I think that is thinking on a too small scale. David said that the housing market is now an investment market, which it hasn't been like 20 or 30 years ago, which the podcast was a lot about. I mean, even he said like he doesn't see any other way than a revolution. At the end of the
he's
podcast,
a real estate investor.
He's a real estate investor, and he himself said we have reached this point of no return, where so much property is in so few hands that he cannot imagine any way other than a revolution.
Wow, I didn't know.
Yeah.
But perhaps it's possible partial for 1 year.
Yeah, look, the point is, the point is, if you want to refrain from a revolution, because it's utopian, no? You cannot make a revolution today.
I don't want to say I'm a friend of that, but just taking his words in how far we have gone.
In terms of evolution, there is even here, so not only in the loss of biodiversity and in climate change, we have a point of no return. A certain systemic threshold has been passed. Also in the real estate, so in the real possibility of having real physical ground for making physical communities. No? So if the situation is as it is, no? Which possibilities we have? No? It's a question. We have this combination with the new virtual communities, with the new techne. No? Fine. No? But what about the existing base of every effort, at least in history so far? The existing base is ground as a property and power. No? And power is ground plus money in the end. Anna?
I would also like to add time to it. I personally think that I could not have made time if I had to work. No, well, this is also for me considered work, but and I think, for example, universal basic income is providing the ability to participate in democratic exchanges if you do not have to work. And
it's a realistic point. This was the aspect of the Greek Panausos addressed in the morning. Yeah. If I need 3 jobs in order to survive and have to work from 2, no? I have no time in these nice workshops here, for instance. No? And I do not care because I'm living on another planet. My planet is the survival planet. No? We are speaking about possibilities of a meaningful survival. This is pure luxury. And we should use this luxury in a positive way, make something out of it. No? No?
Yes, but nevertheless, if you imagine you are in a skyscraper living and you have 3 jobs and you don't know how to manage it in the next months, and so I think it could be a possibility to have one apartment where the other people in the house can meet.
That is a good point. Yeah. No doubt, Ulrike. This is a good point. The discussion is not against your point. This is important. The point is, it was another direction. The point of this other direction was, can we change? I try to reformulate it. can we change something on large scale? And so this is at the classical point of view. And then we arrive at the perspective of the revolution, the jihad, the holy war against the ugly capitalists and so on. Or can we make it on small scale? This is your point. And if we can make it on small scale, we are speaking about niches. And this must be clear. This is my only thing. It must be clear what we are doing then. We speak about niches, and when we are speaking about niches, we are speaking about the goodwill of the people in power keeping the niches alive. No? This has been a discussion in the 68 discussion movement also. So this is, has a long tradition. No? If the people in power allow us to keep our niches, fine. But the recent tendencies are going in the opposite direction. There are less niches. Also, the prognosis of Karl Marx as regards concentration processes. I'm no Marxist, but he was a prophet, this guy, as regards the dynamics of capitalism. And we have the concentration process, and the concentration process forces us to escape this process. And here again, we have two possibilities on pure logical grounds. We can make a revolution, or we can go to a new world, a new world, to Arizona, make the ideal community like they tried in the 60s. Also with Italian architects, by the way. I have visited one, Paolo Soleri, Arco Santi. This was a very interesting social experiment. Now, it is bargained with a Chinese hotel chain. The former Utopia has been sold as a new extra Disneyland. Imagine. This is horrible, but it is the case. So we are speaking about viability also when we are speaking about building up new communities and in the recent conditions. It's not possible, but we have to really think about it, how to make it.
I see a lot of political work in ahead of us in the sense that we should push for reforms that, people having excessive amounts of apartments and buildings, having these super entities being taxed a proper way, so that
it will not happen. Man, it will not be sure.
Because it's just like this, either this, or there's if even experts are already talking about revolutions and so on. So
that is my reaction shows where we are in terms of thresholds. So we should consider something new, some new approaches. All right, whatever. It's important, and in any case, I found it very refreshing that we met today. Refreshing as regards the utopian impetus in a positive way. It's a guiding star, and without guiding star, without telos, we would be lost.